Hey everybody, I'm Katie Ortiz with your Social Stop. If you've logged into Facebook recently, you may have noticed this at the top of your feed: tips for spotting false news. The social media platform has previously been under fire for not doing enough to curb the spread of fake news, and now they're working with a nonprofit group called First Draft. Facebook says that group is dedicated to improving skills and standards in the reporting and sharing of information online. That partnership has resulted in this new educational tool for their users. Now, joining me now is Jared Maxfield with Necessary Technology. Jared, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so why don't you explain this tool and how this all works for their users?
A couple of things are going on. The first thing is, as you mentioned, Facebook has come out with a new tool. People will see that at the beginning of their news feed for an abbreviated period of time. It is a test right now. Facebook has said it's not permanent at the moment, but that will be rolling out. And what that news feed will tell you about is how you can actually use this tool to actually, when you see a news feed article, which we see either come up naturally in our feeds, or perhaps some of our acquaintances or friends in Facebook have reposted it or shared it with us, the tool will help basically help point us towards a direction of, is this a credible news story? For example, if you try to share a news story, some of the people they've partnered up with, Snopes.com, the Associated Press, you know, they're essentially looking at some of these articles and will throw up a flag, literally a message saying, hey, this has been disputed by ABC News, or you may want to look further into this. You can still share it, of course, but they will kind of give you almost a warning that there's something a little off about this story and you might want to do some further research. Okay, and you also explained that with this tool there kind of comes this other piece that's more educational for the users. Correct. You know, a big part of it is there's never going to be a computer program or an algorithm that can feed out or filter out every fake news story or bad news story or even inaccurate news story. So really what they're doing is also teaching us just really some basic common sense when it comes to looking at a news story. Very simple things like actually read the news story. Anyone that reads the comments on Facebook, I know I love to read comments on news stories, it's clear that some people actually literally only read the headline and never actually read the story and feel fully comfortable, you know, sharing that. Look at the source, look at the website. You know, if, for example, if you see the news story is listed from NBCNewsUSA.com. Well, that's not NBC News, it's some fake news or website story. So using common sense, looking at these things, very simply, if you read a story, look it up in another news organization. See if it's actually real or legitimate. You know, cross-reference a little bit because you just don't know what's real or fake.
Essentially kind of do your own homework before you spread it.
Correct. And, you know, we all know from the past election, you know, fake news is a big story, and whether it actually affected anything or not, the root of the problem is there and will probably only get worse. And it's time, companies like Facebook taking a step like this with this tool. Google has recently removed different these news sites from their advertising feed, which essentially takes revenue from them, because a big argument that people make is, hey, Facebook and Google kind of have an interest in all this extra stuff because they're being paid to help propagate this stuff. So it's time for them to kind of take a step and help educate us as essentially news consumers, information consumers, and also use the technology available to them to help do this.
Now, why is it for people to kind of identify what is real versus what is fake? I mean, obviously for me as a reporter, kind of have a better handle on what is legit or verified as true and as fact. But for the average user on Facebook, why is it so difficult to know what is not real?
Well, and now you're getting into more opinion, but I mean, in my opinion, first of all, we all tend to gravitate towards the news stories that we want to see. You know, if you are pro-Democrat, that story is you're going to gravitate towards that. If you're pro-Republican or conservative, you're going to gravitate towards that. And these headlines are really designed to do that. You've heard the term probably clickbait. You know, clickbait is designed to sensationalize, make something sound over the top, and induce us to click on it. I always tell my customers it's like when you go to a restaurant and the waiter says, don't touch the plate, it's hot. Half of us immediately touch the plate. You know, it's just human nature, and that's what these guys are taking advantage of. They're taking advantage of the fact that you see something sensational, you see something over the top, and you want to click on it. But that right there should be, you know, a big stop sign, a red light. Hey, is this too good to be true, or something like that? And cross-reference it. We can't preach enough. Again, if you read a story about whatever set of circumstances, it's as simple as 10 seconds later just going to Google News, typing in some basic information, and seeing if other news organizations have published that story or the same story, if the facts are the same. Because at the end of the day, especially with Facebook, we influence people. We influence our friends and family members and business people we work with by sharing these stories. And essentially, and this is where I think people should really feel, you're kind of being used. You know, you're being used by these guys. You know, most of the people putting out these fake news stories are either doing it for propaganda or for profit. And when you then push that down the road, you're basically helping criminals make a buck, and also not doing good for our society, because we're just, you know, we're not learning facts. And in an information society, we should be learning facts, not fiction.
And that's where Facebook comes in with this educational process that they're trying to do. Do you think what they're doing now is enough by trying to have their users make sure they see that the resources are there to kind of train themselves how to look for fake news?
It's enough to start. You know, quite frankly, it's not that hard for them to use technology to filter some of these things out. There's been some stories of even kids in college coming up with quick algorithms and things that could be added on that would actually filter these things out at a better rate. Got to remember, every time Facebook publishes one of these stories, they're getting paid. They went public a couple of years ago, and they were a $30, $40 stock when they came out, and now they're, you know, in the mid 100s. There's a reason for that. They're generating ad revenue. So it's a double-edged sword for them, because of course they don't want to deal with the public backlash and they don't want to be known for that, but they're also trying to make money for their shareholders. So I do think that there could be more things, and hopefully will be more things that they'll do down the road with technology. But at the end of the day, just like everything in life, all the scams we're bombarded with, you have to use just your wits, you know, use that gut feeling you have that goes, something's a little bit off. And if you feel that, it probably is. And it doesn't take much for us to reach out and find more information and see if what we're reading or talking about is actually correct.
Absolutely. Jared, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
That's it for your Social Stop.